Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into the massive transformations that are completely reshaping the electric vehicle charging ecosystem as we look ahead to 2026. Now, if you follow the EV space, you know things move incredibly fast. But the convergence of technology, policy, and grid management we are seeing right this minute, it's genuinely unprecedented. We're no longer just talking about plugging a car into a wall. We are talking about a total, global rewiring of how energy is distributed, managed, and regulated.
So, you have to ask yourself, what actually happens when the EV charging industry grows up? Well, we are about to find out. Today, we're looking at how this industry is transitioning out of its awkward growing pains, the fragmented networks, the proprietary plugs, the unpredictable uptime, and evolving into a highly scaled, strictly regulated, and optimally efficient global network. The Wild West experimental phase is officially over. The era of massive, structured deployment is here, and it is going to impact literally every grid on the planet.
Okay, here's our quick roadmap for today. We're hitting 4 major forces of change: next-gen EV charging tech, vehicle grid integration, the sweeping Buy America mandate, and finally, evolving EV business models.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Next-Gen EV Charging Tech. We're seeing technological leaps across the board right now, especially with ultra-fast 350-kilowatt chargers, AI, and battery swapping.
Before we get into the wild growth numbers, it's absolutely crucial to understand a major shift happening right now. The industry is moving away from clunky proprietary systems and towards standardized interoperable swap protocols. Basically, we are hitting a massive network-driven inflection point. Instead of fleets just sitting there, losing money while dealing with charging downtime, they are shifting to modular battery packs designed for a rapid physical exchange. It's kind of like swapping the batteries in your TV remote, but on a massive municipal scale, specifically built for commercial and shared urban mobility fleets.
And the money following this is huge. We're looking at a staggering $12.5 billion forecast by 2036. To put that into perspective, that represents a 25.3% compound annual growth rate for battery swapping systems over the next decade. This incredible scale is being driven purely by necessity. Dense urban environments simply require faster turnaround times and cross-operator compatibility.
Now, you might be picturing everyday passenger cars sitting in suburban driveways, but actually, scratch that. They aren't the ones driving this growth. It's urban fleets and last-mile logistics. 2- and 3-wheelers are absolutely dominating the market, grabbing a whopping 62% share. This is happening big time in Asia, where municipal electrification mandates are literally forcing operators to transition to battery swap infrastructure just to keep their massive delivery and ride-hailing networks moving 24/7. But hardware is only half the story. Beyond the physical swapping of batteries, there's a total software revolution happening behind the scenes. Industry leaders predict artificial intelligence is going to be the foundational tool for energy optimization. Think about it. Multi-site networks and commercial fleets have to be highly efficient to be profitable. So AI steps in like a super smart traffic cop. It dynamically manages grid strain, optimizes charging schedules based on real-time usage forecasts, and enables dynamic pricing. It ensures your chargers aren't pulling massive, highly expensive amounts of energy during peak tariff times. It's a total game changer for the bottom line. Moving right along to Section 2, Vehicle Grid Integration. The big takeaway here is that EVs aren't just taking energy anymore, they are giving it back.
Let's clear up some of this alphabet soup, shall we? Vehicle-to-Grid, or V2G, allows fleet operators to actually monetize their vehicles by turning them into virtual power plants. They draw power when energy is cheap, and then, here's the magic, they send stored energy back to the grid during peak times when demand and prices are sky-high. Now, this is slightly different from vehicle-to-home, or V2H, which is mainly about keeping your lights on during a local power outage. V2G is the big leagues. It's about systemic, grid-level interaction.
But as you can probably guess, integrating thousands of massive, rolling batteries into the local power grid isn't exactly a simple plug-and-play situation. Recently, at a California Public Utilities Commission forum, this was a huge topic of debate. Real-world utility regulators are having to carefully evaluate how exporting all this power impacts our already aging infrastructure. Yes, the technology exists inside the vehicles today, but the grid itself, it has to be heavily upgraded to handle bidirectional power flow safely and reliably. So the CPUC is actively investigating the net benefits and the costs, and they're asking the really tough questions. Will VGI actually help delay expensive distribution upgrades by providing localized power? Or is safely enabling this export feature going to inadvertently create a mountain of secondary infrastructure costs? And crucially, who pays for all this?
Regulators are trying to make sure dynamic rates don't result in unfair cross-subsidies, where standard grid customers end up footing the bill for infrastructure upgrades that mostly just benefit commercial EV fleet operators. All right, let's pivot to Section 3, the Buy America mandate. Here we'll see how federal policy is aggressively shifting the manufacturing landscape right here in the U.S. In a major update to the NEVI formula program, that's the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, the U.S. Department of Transportation just announced a massive shift. The stated goal here from the administration is pretty straightforward: boost the domestic industrial base, generate American jobs, and fundamentally prevent cybersecurity vulnerabilities that could pop up from using foreign-made tech in our critical energy infrastructure. And the policy explicitly modifies the previous waiver to mandate that federally funded EV chargers must now be manufactured with 100% domestic components. 100%. That is a massive leap from the previous 55% requirement. This is an absolute hard reset of supply chain expectations for any company out there looking to tap into federal funding for their charging network rollout.
But the real kicker here? The timeline. This regulatory shift requires immediate compliance for these federally funded projects. There is no long, drawn-out, phased-in transition period. It's designed to force manufacturers to rapidly reshore their supply chains right now if they want that federal taxpayer funding. It is a forceful, immediate push toward total domestic manufacturing capacity for EV hardware. Finally, Section 4, Evolving EV Business Models. So, how are businesses actually surviving and adapting to all these compounding tech, grid, and policy shifts?
Well, commercial fleets and fuel retailers definitely want to host chargers, but those upfront costs and the sheer technical complexities are massive barriers. To get around this, a ton of them are turning to CaaS, or Charging as a Service. This model is brilliant because it shifts the financial burden and the technical risk over to specialized third-party operators. Instead of dropping a massive amount of capital up front, the site host just pays a predictable subscription fee. The third party handles the whole shebang: installation, maintenance, AI optimization, grid compliance, you name it. It lets retailers actually focus on their core business while totally future-proofing their locations. And for heavy-duty, long-haul trucking, where battery dwell time and weight are still serious logistical headaches, we're seeing the rise of hybrid multi-fuel hubs. Think of these as mega stations. They dispense high-throughput hydrogen and ultra-fast electricity right alongside traditional fuels. It's an acknowledgement that the future of commercial transport isn't just a one-size-fits-all battery solution, but rather a diverse mix of zero-emission tech, all operating from a single unified retail hub. So all of these forces, the multi-billion-dollar rise of standardized battery swapping, AI-driven virtual power plants, and those strict 100% domestic manufacturing mandates, they are all converging at once. They're creating a highly complex, yet massively optimized ecosystem for the future. It really makes you wonder how long it will take before traditional fueling is completely unrecognizable. So, I'll leave you with this. As we head into 2026 and beyond, will your fleet's next fill-up be at a pump, a plug, or a swap station? Thanks for joining me for today's Explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.